Welcome to APP Sustainability Roadmap Second Quarterly Progress Report Announcement. We would like to welcome our guest of honor, the Minister of Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Zulkifli Hasan, the ambassadors of the United Kingdom to the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mark Canning, and the ambassadors extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Yoshinori Katori, the Secretary General and the Director Generals of the Ministry of Forestry and Staff, the Chairman of Asia Pulp and Paper, Mr. Teguh Gandawijaya. It is an honor to have you here with us for this significant moment. We also would like to extend our warm welcome to our stakeholders all around the world who join us today through the live webcast on the internet. On June 5th, 2012, APP announced its Sustainability Roadmap Vision 2020. The roadmap will guide APP's operation in Indonesia and China, reaching out also to the supply chain and encompassing issues from fiber sourcing, conservation, human rights, and waste and energy management. Following the first quarterly progress report that was announced on September 5th, 2012, today, APP is announcing its second quarterly progress report of APP Sustainability Roadmap. Before we reach the announcement itself, please welcome the Chairman of Asia Pulp and Paper Group, Mr. Teguh Gandawijaya, to deliver the welcoming remark to this event.
Today would not have been possible without all of your support. Today is a very important day for APP. We will announce our green commitment to the world. This is necessary as the reality of climate change is all around us. Planting and growing trees and protecting our natural forests is the simplest solution to climate change. In this way, the paper industry has a critical role to play. That's what today's announcement is all about. As a proud Indonesian company and as a global leader, APP wants to set a benchmark for forest production for others in our industry to follow.
This is one of the most significant days in the history of APP, and I'm very proud to be representing the company on such occasion. Our sustainability journey has been and continues to be challenging. At times, we have had difficulties in achieving the goals of growing our business, supporting communities, while conserving Indonesia's natural resources. We have been extensively criticized in the past, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly. And today we are here to share the details of major announcements that represents a defining milestone for our company. The industry, and we hope for the conservation of Indonesia's forest. First, we would like to share that effective January 31st, 2013, we have suspended all natural forest clearance among all suppliers of APP to allow conservation assessment to take place. And secondly, we will protect all natural forests across our operations, including those on peatland. This means that there will be no more natural forests cut in Indonesia by our company or anyone who supplies us. To help us with this commitment, we will implement high carbon stock assessment in addition to our existing conservation commitments. On peat, as well as stopping further development in peat land forest, we will also implement best practice measures with the inputs of independent experts to both reduce and avoid greenhouse gas emissions. And in relation to our social responsibility, we aim to adopt the highest international standards for respecting the rights of indigenous peoples and local community. And finally, to demonstrate just how determined we are to deliver on these commitments, we are inviting NGO observers to participate in the process which will monitor our implementation. Perhaps some of you Our commitment today puts us 2 years ahead of our initial schedule. I'm proud to say that this is a very significant achievement for APP and for advancing forest protection in Indonesia. These new commitments are reflected in APP's new forest conservation policy, which went into effect on February 1st, 2013. This policy applies to APP and all its suppliers in Indonesia, any Indonesian fiber utilized by APP's mills elsewhere, including China, and all our future expansion. There are 2 other important points to note. Firstly, we will also be implementing measures across our global supply chain to support responsible forest management. APP is a global business, sources from around the world, and we therefore must support best practice, not just here in Indonesia, but in all the countries from where we source. And secondly, in the last few months, many questions have been asked about whether we have the plantation fiber that we need to meet our commitments to protect forests and to continue to expand our business. And the answer is, yes, we do. What we are announcing today represents profound change for APP and all our partners. But change will not happen overnight. We know we have a long and challenging journey ahead to ensure that these new sustainability commitments are implemented. And we know that we cannot succeed alone. We will need the help and support of many of our stakeholders, including those in the civil society who have been heavily critical of our company in the past. We know it will take time to demonstrate APP is delivering to these commitments, but I am very confident with the support of the government of Indonesia and our other stakeholders, we can and will succeed. In this regard, I would particularly like to pay tribute to the support of the Ministry of Forestry, Pak Zulkifli, Pak Bambang, and also the work of our colleagues at the Forest Trust, Scott Boynton, Dean, and Arif, and also the support and the constructive input by other stakeholders, civil society, of course, including Greenpeace. Today would not have been possible without them all. Thank you very much.
Saya hari ini senang sekali, sungguh berbahagia. Paling tidak apa yang dilakukan oleh APP yang disampaikan barusan, kita berikan apresiasi, kita berikan tepuk tangan Bapak Ibu sekalian. Paling tidak Menteri Kehutanan sedikit berkurang bebannya. Pada awal 2010, kita tidak mengeluarkan izin baru lagi untuk konsesi memanfaatkan hutan alam. Tidak lagi. Dan kita juga tidak lagi memberikan konversi untuk areal lain, penggunaan lain, ataukah perkebunan atau apapun pada lahan gambut. Ditindaklanjuti, terbitlah Inpres moratorium pada tahun 2010 bulan Mei yang dikenal dengan Inpres 10/2011. Sudah tidak boleh lagi menebang hutan alam, kemudian tidak boleh lagi mengkonversi lahan gambut. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, tentu yang baru tidak lagi, tetapi pada waktu itu masalah kita adalah yang teman-teman kita, perusahaan-perusahaan yang sudah memberikan, yang sudah mendapat izin, seperti APP dan lain-lain. Mereka pada waktu itu sudah mendapat hak dan sesuai dengan peraturan perundang-undangan yang berlaku. Terhadap perusahaan-perusahaan yang sudah memiliki perizinan sesuai dengan peraturan perundang-undangan berlaku, karena pada waktu itu memang belum ada moratorium dan memang diperbolehkan, karena mereka sudah mendapatkan sesuai dengan peraturan sekali perundangan yang berlaku. Oleh karena itu kita berikan waktu pada perusahaan-perusahaan kita yang telah memperoleh izin, kita beri kesempatan untuk menyelesaikan seluruh perizinannya itu, menyelesaikan pelaksanaannya, kira-kira 2 tahun, selambat-lambatnya 3 tahun. Oleh karena itu tepatlah kalau APP pada hari ini tadi dipresentasikan tidak lagi memakai hutan alam yang izin-izin yang mereka miliki, mereka akan melakukan nanti dengan sistem sistem mosaik HCVF, artinya yang ada hutan alam tidak boleh dipakai, yang tidak ada hutan mereka tanami. Sudah sejalan dengan apa yang menjadi kebijakan pemerintah. Pas, oleh karena itu saya paling berbahagia dan ini menjadi inisiatif perusahaan. Inilah yang kami hargai. Deforestasi kita berkurang sangat signifikan. Kalau pada tahun sebelum 98, deforestasi kira-kira 3,5 juta hektar per tahun. Tahun 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009 masih kira-kira 1,1 juta hektar deforestasi per tahun. Maka pada tahun 2011 data menunjukkan yang dilansir oleh FAO tinggal 450.000 hektar deforestasi per tahun. Tepuk tangan sedikit untuk pertama. Ini keberhasilan kita sama-sama. Dari 1 jutaan menjadi 450.000. Apakah masalah kita sudah selesai? Tentu tidak. Yang mulia Duta Besar Inggris, Duta Besar Jepang, penduduk Indonesia yang besar, lebih dari 240 juta, tingkat pendidikan yang berbeda-beda, ada yang pendidikan tinggi, ada yang sedang, ada yang tidak berpendidikan. Ada penduduk Indonesia yang berpenghasilan menengah, tapi ada juga yang miskin. Tentu tidak mudah. Kalau perusahaan-perusahaan seperti APP dan lain-lain agak mudah kita kontrol. Tetapi tadi perkembangan penduduk yang besar diiringi oleh kenaikan harga-harga komoditi. Apakah komoditi sawit, palm oil, karet, kemudian coklat dan lain-lain. Pertanian yang kebutuhan masyarakat Indonesia begitu pesat meningkatnya, apakah kacang-kacangan, apakah jagung, ataukah padi dan sebagainya, tentu itu juga mengakibatkan terjadinya deforestasi. Publik masyarakat masuk ke dalam kawasan hutan untuk tadi itu mengkonversi menjadi sawit, menjadi karet dan lain-lain. Ini tantangan kami berikutnya yang harus kami juga selesaikan. Tentu tidak mudah. Karena tidak mungkin pendekatan-pendekatan security, pendekatan-pendekatan keamanan sudah tidak zamannya lagi, tetapi haruslah pendekatan-pendekatan kesejahteraan. Itu yang kami lakukan, tentu perlu waktu dan tidak mudah. Oleh karena itu, kalau perusahaan-perusahaan selesai, semua hampir sama misalnya dengan APP melakukan tidak lagi menebang hutan alam, tentu yang tugas kita yang kedua adalah menyelesaikan tugas-tugas bagaimana masyarakat tidak merusak lingkungan, tetapi juga mereka mendapat akses yang legal untuk mengembangkan ekonominya, untuk memajukan usahanya dan sebagainya.
We have moved the achievement by 2 years. We initially targeted to complete it HCVF compliance by 2015, so we moved it up 2 years ahead of the target. The reason why we needed to do that is very simple. We always say that we want to be the global player. We want to be the leader in the industry globally, not just Indonesia, but globally. In order to achieve that, you cannot just implement a policy that is halfway, that is only meeting certain requirements. As a global leader, we need to adopt the highest standard possible and implement it properly and committed to transparency in the commitment itself, in the implementation of the commitment itself. And secondly, the way we work in APP, before we make a new policy or we announce any new policy, we need to make sure that all input from stakeholders are incorporated. And we have become very aware. We receive very clear message from top 3 important stakeholders, 2 external, customer and the NGO community, and also from internal stakeholders, the push that we need to do something now to help address climate change issues.
How have the pulpwood suppliers reacted to the demand? I mean, has it been a difficult issue?
Well, Mark, just to remind that over than 2.6 million hectares is a huge and even the biggest plantations concession in the world. Probably about 35 times of Singapore. This size is already represents of complex issues in its supply chain itself. It's long way, and it's not an easy task at all for us to convince them. However, we managed to convince them by solving the multi-stakeholder issue on the ground. Now they respect our policy and they commit to follow it. And I really thank you for them that basically they are going to go all out in this program. And I'd like to thank you for them. They are mostly here.
So this obviously means the saving of the forests. This obviously means, this is very important indeed. How much natural forest do you think will be saved as a result of today's announcement?
Yeah, Mark, we're still doing the analysis on that. We've got some new satellite data, but the estimates are anywhere between 150 to 250,000 hectares of land that would have been available for plantations will be set aside as a result of this announcement.
Well, okay. So can you give us some sort of an idea of the role that the TFT's been taking with APP?
Yeah, TFT works with businesses, as you said at the start, to help them look at the issues that they're dealing with, the environmental and social issues. And we started to work with APP back in February of 2012, February the 8th, so we're almost a year in. And really, as Ida indicated earlier in her presentation, that the NGOs, Greenpeace and others had been calling for APP to look at certain things. Meanwhile, there was campaigns running against them and discussions with customers. So we were able to get in there with APP and help them look strategically at these issues, to find them a bit of space to think about where they wanted their business to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years' time, and really to get out there. I've been involved with the senior team here in Jakarta in many discussions, but we have about 50 people here in Indonesia, and around 30 of those have been working at any one time on the APP project, visiting forests, talking to communities, looking at factories, talking to a range of stakeholders to bring that information into our discussions that we've been having in Jakarta. So we've helped, I would say, APP find its own way. APP has found its way out of the complex situation that it found itself in, and our role is really to facilitate that process to help them move forward.
You and I talked last June at the launch of the roadmap, as we said earlier, and in answer to my question on raw material supply, you said that something like 10 to 15% of the wood at the time going into the APP's Indonesian pulp mills was mixed tropical hardwood, or MTH, as a lot of people know it by, which essentially means wood from the forest. So what will be that situation now going forward?
It's definitely going to be much lower than what the initial target was. In 2012, APP Indonesia pulp mills consume roughly about 20% of its fiber consumption in the form of natural forest fiber, or MTH. But moving forward, we're going to further reduce it to 8% to practically zero by the end of the year.
The move that APP is making to develop, along with TFT and us, an expert peat panel that will help define best practices for those peat that could be used, I think is going to be a very, very beneficial thing for Indonesia and the company.
We always want and really need those NGO and all other stakeholders to be part of our roadmap process in order to success, of course. And further, on later stage, we will open a forum group discussions to make sure that we take all inputs from all the NGOs and other comments from other society.
There's still a long journey ahead of us, but instead of criticizing us, we're now expecting or asking the NGO community to actually help us to implement our policy on the ground and help us monitor that our policy gets implemented.
Yeah, good afternoon. Mark Canning, the British Ambassador. The longer I'm in government, the more I understand how little power governments have, and particularly in issues like this around deforestation, carbon reduction. And I think it's clear to everyone that if Indonesia is to preserve its forest environment, if it is to reduce its carbon emissions by 26% as it has pledged to do, then it's not government, it's the private sector that's going to allow them to do that. Is it?
Yes.
It's the private sector that's going to allow them to do that. So I'm very pleased to be here today, and I'm very pleased to hear the commitments that APP has made. It has been a roller coaster ride, as many of the speakers have acknowledged, but I think APP is in a position to exert real leadership on this issue within Indonesia, beyond Indonesia, and to exert real influence over the hundreds and thousands of companies that supply it. So from the British government's perspective, we are pleased to see you do this. We applaud this. And I guess my question is one around verification. As Ronald Reagan once said, trust but verify. Would the panel say one or two words about the verification and how you make sure that noble words are translated into action on the ground? Thank you.
Who would like to take that?
I think Scott or I can. Yeah. Well, I can tell from the work that we're going to do at the TFT, APP has asked us to monitor the implementation of the policy, and our teams have set up a whole series of protocols, and they're out on the ground now doing that, making sure that on January 31st the machines were turned off, measuring the where the forest is so that it doesn't keep getting cut. So there's a whole series of work going on in the field as we speak. The key thing is, and I think what separates this policy announcement of APPs from previous announcements, is that they really have opened themselves to very, very broad scrutiny and very, very broad involvement of civil society. So what the policy makes clear is that TFT will do this very intense monitoring, but we will open the door to have local NGOs, local civil society grassroots organisation, looking over our shoulder and coming with us as we go to the field to do the observation. APP is also setting up what they call a hotline. So if something happens, we might be monitoring this forest over here, but something's happening in another forest. There's a hotline by which community members or NGOs can ring up APP and say, look, this is happening here, you need to get out and have a look. So I think this really does set this announcement apart, the level of transparency and the serious intent that it's going with the monitoring. We haven't come together yet with the local NGOs. We wanted to make this announcement first, but we know that the NGO partners have been talking about this, and our plan is later this week is to have a meeting with the local NGOs and really gear up our monitoring. We really want, our sense is that APP are very, very serious about this. They wouldn't be making this announcement if they weren't serious. And they want to be able to prove to the world that they're actually doing it. And the best way to do that is to have the grassroots organisation on the ground verifying that this is the case. So I think we have a strong program in place.
Why are you doing this today?
Why now? Our chairman stated earlier that climate change is no longer a risk, it's a fact. And APP, as the global leader, we have a very important role in helping the government to fight climate change. We have the land banks of our suppliers of 3 million hectares in Indonesia and China, and we can do something to help reduce greenhouse gas emission. And you ask about the customers. Of course, customers is a very important stakeholder for us. Their input, of course, we have to consider as well, including the NGO input and other stakeholder input.
We only have one Indonesia. So there is no plan B. It's always plan Indonesia. So I think high conservation value forest is our interest. High carbon stock forest is our interest. Peatland management, indeed, our interest. Social and community engagements, of course, this is our people. Why now? I heard somebody ask about this. It's because, again, the process, the complexity of this issue is, I think, no one have the experience to do it in the past. We don't have any role model. Indonesian forest is unique. We only have this one in the world. So no one have the experience except Indonesian to manage this forest. So we're still learning. But we are not only talking and make this vision on paper, but we also already translating this to regulation, and that regulation implemented in the field. And I do hope other companies could come along and follow the example, take the inspirations. I I'm not sure if there's any company could copy this. No. Each and every company need to develop their own system, but they can take the inspiration. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, let's give ourselves an appreciation. I do appreciate our friends and colleagues and partners who keep on reminding us about the importance of the conservation, about the sustainability, because again, we only have one planet. And I do applaud APP that hopefully this company could turn from a product company to becoming a company that very much recognize the importance of customers, but please do not stop there, because from product to customers, we need to go beyond that, from product to customers to humanity, because this is all our interest.